to the Michael Hart Show.
Blog Talk Radio.
Anyone can tell you the news.
We welcome Diamond and Silk.
Mark Zuckerberg will end up, and it's going to be a face without the book.
Book without the page.
Hey, Megan, how are you?
Now they're chipping away at the normalization of pedophilia, and the left is embracing this type of behavior.
We welcome Dinesh D'Souza.
I know I ticked him off. In a certain sense, it's a giant up yours to Obama, and that's why the left is freaking out over it.
Jack Kennedy and LBJ, Clinton, and the double standard from the left.
Yeah, I love how the left does nothing but push the most bizarre practices down our throats and up our tailpipes.
It takes a real man to tackle the hot issues that really matter.
Michael Hart is the man of this house.
Welcome to the Michael Hart Show.
Really know what this means, but Democrats asked the judge to throw out the state's existing match law. They say untrained experts should not be allowed to decide if someone's signature on a mail-in ballot doesn't match the signature on their registration. Is there something oxymoronic about untrained experts? Asking for a friend. Untrained experts. What in the living you-know-what does that mean? In his ruling, Walker said that the risk of unconstitutionally depriving eligible voters of their right to vote and have that vote counted outweighs the defense's argument that additional procedures to ensure legal votes are counted and will unduly burden the election as well as erode public confidence in the electoral process. Now, I do agree that if you are registered to vote, you are eligible to vote, and you voted, you should not have that kicked out. Because you know something? No matter how ugly my signature is, whenever I use that little stylus thing or whatever it's called, they never seem to not want to charge my credit card. I could put the letter X, and I guarantee you the thing would say, signature accepted. So this notion that they should be kicked out, predicated on the signature, I don't agree with. I think the judge is making the right decision here, despite the law to the contrary, because you should have every vote. And we don't know that all of them are going to go for Nelson, but that seems to be the feeling of the Democrats. But back to Senator Brown making the comments that you have more Republicans in Georgia, Democrats in Georgia, so they couldn't have possibly won or lost this election with Stacey Abrams. In Ohio, Ohioans are so disgusted with the Democrat Party that you've got as many people, do the math here, actually it's almost 1 million more independent voters in Ohio than the Republicans and Democrats combined. But Republicans have about 500,000 more than the Democrats do in Ohio, which is Brown's home state. So yet again, you have this wonderful menagerie, this smorgasbord, this cornucopia of BS coming from these politicians on the Democratic side. And then, just for flavoring towards the end, he has to make it.
As we muddle through today's technological glitches that are apparently floating around out there. So we got a lot of news to cover if we can ever get this thing to stick. So you guys hang tight with us. We're going to figure out our little techno glitches here. For those of you that are refugees from the old Superstation 101, then, you should be used to this kind of nonsense. As we said earlier today, we are going to be covering an awful lot about the Speaker of the House race. Nancy Pelosi is in some trouble and some hot water with her support. Also, an interesting story related to health care in Canada. And the reason I want to get into this is because we know that Bernie Sanders had some very curious viewpoints on single-payer health care in the United States. And so this is something the House of Representatives is also going to have to treat with. And so I want to break down an interesting story that's going to the Canadian Supreme Court that involves an escalator. Yep, you heard me right, an escalator. Also, it was on this particular date, 1914, the Federal Reserve Bank opens. And the reason we might get into this a little more long form a little bit later on today's broadcast. I don't know if we're going to have enough time to actually get into it today, but we're definitely going to tear into the Federal Reserve Bank in the very, very, very near future, maybe Monday or Tuesday's program, as a matter of fact. Hang tight, I need some coffee. It's already been a coffee frustrating day. So anyway, we will take some calls here in just a bit, 929-477-3761. And also you can email the program, Michael at 101, I just did it right there, Michael at Hart of America. Old habits die hard, don't they? Michael at heartofamerica.net. And also consider when you go out there to the website, consider checking out the Patreon page. It's new, it's in its infancy, but that's the way we pay for the program, folks. I mean, things don't come free. They're definitely not cheap. So if you are a listener to the program, we would love to have you consider supporting the program. It's $6 a month, and an opportunity for you. As a matter of fact, we even get a free copy of Unknown America just for showing your support right after the very first month is taken care of. So you're getting the book for 33% of what the actual retail cost is. If you're a business owner, there's a $79 plateau to support the program where you get an awful lot of exposure. And then for the top tier, it's $150 a month for 40 spots. 40 on this program, Twitter, Periscope, Facebook, on Alexa, on Google, on our $150 a month. As a matter of fact, we want to welcome a brand new supporter of the program, McCrory Animal Clinic, right up there in Albertville, Alabama, has been so gracious to give us the opportunity to tout all of their expertise. So the folks over at McCrory Animal Clinic, we appreciate you so very much. Right there on Alabama Highway 75 North in Albertville, Alabama. If you happen to live in that part of the United States, please reach out to McCrory Animal Clinic and thank them for being supporters of this program. You'll be hearing a whole lot more about them as well. All right, so we got several stories. And for those of you that are brand new listeners of the program, a lot of what we talk about here, we are able to take and blend stories together. Now, if you're tuning in just to get the trending news highlights of the day, you're probably in the wrong spot, because I like to think of this particular program as being a little bit more in-depth, a little more tutorial. There's 1,000 talking heads out there that are bloviating and blowing it out of their backsides on things they don't really know anything about. I spend an awful lot of time doing research. I am a historian. I am a published author, not just one book, but actually two. The other one was unrelated, but, I digress. The point is that very oftentimes, all the things that we're talking about in this country, they are interconnected and intertwined. And it's very important to understand that. And the reason I'm bringing this up at this point in time is this. We have the House of Representatives. It's turned blue. We know these things. But what effect does that have on you? People are, Donald Trump, he couldn't hold on to that. And everybody focuses in on the loss. Everybody focuses in on the wackadoodles that are elected. But people don't really pay attention to what might come down the pike from that particular situation. Case in point, Nancy Pelosi running for Speaker of the House. Now, she is meeting opposition, but even if she is ousted, you've got a situation where the House of Representatives is going to deal with health care. They are going, and I don't mean cleaning up the current situation. I'm talking about introducing single payer. Now, obviously, you got to have the Senate on board with this, but the Senate, particularly after the midterms, has at this time tightened up. Now, despite the fact that Pelosi has been on the receiving end of a revolt inside the Democratic Party, she has still garnered an enormous amount of support. Kind of an aside to all this, as we get into the debate about Speaker of the House, it might be interesting to note here, just from a constitutional perspective, that the Speaker of the House of Representatives does not have to be an elected member of the House of Representatives. They can choose whoever they want. And it may very well be high time that they choose whoever they want. Yes, I am telling you that the House of Representatives can go outside of its membership and vote anybody into the Speaker of the House position that they want to. The Constitution has absolutely no prohibitions on that. Interestingly enough, the House of Representatives would also be voting for a Speaker of the House that then would therefore be granted voting rights within the House body. That's not likely to happen in this situation, but if Pelosi is ousted and there is nobody else within the House of Representatives deemed worthy of that position, it is a theoretical possibility. So, where does that take the future of the House of Representatives if, in fact, they begin to deal with things such as health care, which is a budgetary issue, and all these issues have to originate, all budgetary issues have to come out of the House of Representatives. So on one side, you've got the whole thing with whether or not Pelosi is going to be ousted, and then you've got the issue of who is going to be Speaker of the House to lead them towards these revisions in the current health care policy in this country. And I am talking about single payer. Because you know what? Elections have consequences, don't they? When we come back on the other side, I want to break down this very weird story in Canada. Take a look at their version of single payer, something that the newly reelected Bernie Sanders has been a champion of, that we know Chuck Schumer gets behind, and Pelosi would also support in the House of Representatives if she maintains power. So you've got the midterms, you've got the bluing of the House of Representatives, then you've got the possibility of Pelosi coming back into its leadership position, then you've got the attachment of single payer being on the top issues they would deal with. Then you have got the desire from many of the same cast of characters there to want to support Canadian-style single payer, which brings us straight to an escalator. What's that all about? We'll explain it on the other side. You're listening to The Michael Hart Show right here on the Heart of America Talk Radio Network. The
Land Report, the magazine for the American landowner, is a proud supporter of the Michael Hart Show. Currently, they're offering an exclusive subscription price for listeners of the Michael Hart Show. So click on the subscribe button on landreport.com and enter the code HARTSHOW at checkout and receive a 1-year discount on America's #1 land magazine. You'll get a full year of the Land Report, which normally goes for $59, for only $15. That's a 75% savings off the cover price. Again, that's promo code HARTSHOW at checkout of thelandreport.com, and make sure to check out the Land Report on Facebook if you love land. If you're a fan of the Michael Hart Show and are enjoying the daily commentary, interviews, and audio shorts, then please consider supporting the program financially. Creating a daily talk program takes a great deal of time and money. Although corporate sponsors are always welcome, the real support comes from people like you, the regular listeners. So if you support the Christian conservative message and values we share on this program and would like to help, please go to our website, michaelhartshow.com, and click on the orange Patreon button at the top of the page. For less than $7 a month, you can help us keep going while we spread our faith-based conservative views worldwide. So if you support our views, please consider supporting the program. Just go to www.michaelhartshow.com and click on the orange Patreon button, and thanks for your support and for listening.
It's the Michael Hart Show.
Come again?
The Michael Hart Show.
You know I don't speak Spanish. In English, please.
A liberal dose of conservatism.
How'd you do that? I'm not even mad. That's amazing.
Hey, welcome back. All right, a little bit of quick backstory here. Last night, I was actually on TV, on Outspoken with Joe Lockett. Now, we covered a lot of different segments and issues, and by the way, I'm going to be a regular on that program in the future, every Thursday, I believe it is. One of the issues that we got into was, and we did not go into it in depth at all, because you just don't have the time. At least on TV. I have the time here. And I'm not going to go too in-depth with it today, but we got into a little bit about who really runs America. And it's very important to understand that there are people behind the scenes. I'm not going to say a shadow government, because there's nothing shadowy about the Council on Foreign Relations. Hell, they meet in public. Half the CIA directors and senators and congressmen and media people in this country have been members of the Council on Foreign Relations, and I'm just using that as one example. It's a think tank. It's been around since the 1920s. The reason I'm bringing that up is that people need to realize that there are people out there, groups, think Pinky in the Brain if you want to, that always wants to overthrow the world. Somebody once said to me, Michael, don't you understand there's people out there that are trying to overthrow this country? I'm like, don't you understand? I'd like to. So anyway. You have to understand that there are people and groups and organizations behind the scenes. Because these groups and people are behind the scenes, a lot of what we see on the news is interconnected. It's interwoven. And too many of the jackaloon talking heads out there either don't get this or don't know how to cobble the pieces together to go from where we are to where we are likely to end up. And so that's one of the things we like to do on this program. And where I'm going with this is simply this. And we'll tell you a little bit more about who is really running the show a little bit later on. If you want to think deep state or the swamp or whatever, that's only part of the accurate descriptive. It's a lot deeper than that. And frankly, it's not even as nefarious as you might think, because, again, a lot of these organizations are not in the dark. But now we have the midterms behind us. You have the House of Representatives has turned blue. You have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez screaming about jobs and health care in New York. It's happened in New Jersey. We're having these debates in Florida, having them in Arizona. So now we've got the House of Representatives turned blue. We know that they are going to bring up health care. We know that if they do bring up single payer, because now it becomes a budgetary issue, which is the bailiwick of the House, that it could pass. And with the support of the Alexandrias of the world, handily. Now, it gets volleyed at that point in time over to the United States Senate. It will meet resistance there. However, there is growing concern that it could, in fact, maybe not in the first go-round, but maybe, in fact, flip us on our head and get us single payer. A couple of days ago, we did the doomsday scenario of Donald Trump not being reelected in 2020. The primary indicator for that would be some form of recession. If there's a heavy-duty recession, which there could be, because we're getting a little top-heavy in terms of our unfunded liabilities in this country. If he were not to get reelected and the Senate was to flip, then you've got single payer. And here's what you can look forward to. In a report that was released just a month ago, because Bernie Sanders has admitted that the Medicare, as he called it, Medicare for All bill, is modeled on Canada's healthcare system. Canada's single-payer healthcare system has forced over 1 million patients to wait for necessary medical treatments last year alone, and that is an all-time record. The system cost patients $1.9 billion in lost wages alone. This, according to a brand new report by the Fraser Institute, which is a Vancouver-based think tank. According to Fraser, as we sit here today, 3 in 4 Americans now support a national health care plan. By his own admission, yet again, Senator Bernie Sanders has modeled his idea for single payer on Canada's healthcare system. On a recent fact-finding trip to Canada, Sanders praised the country for guaranteeing health care to all people, noting that there is so much to be learned from the Canadian system. However, the only thing the Canadians are guaranteed is a spot on the waiting list. As the Fraser Report notes, in 2017, more than 173,000 patients waited for an ophthalmology procedure, 91,000 waited for some form of general surgery, and more than 40,000 waited for a urology procedure. On average, after receiving a referral from a general practitioner, the typical patient waited more than 21 weeks to receive treatment from a specialist. That is double the number from just 10 years ago. Additionally, Canadians lose a lot of money waiting for their free socialized medicine. On average, patients forfeit over $1,800 a year in lost wages, and that's only counting the working hours they miss due to pain and or immobility. The Fraser Institute researchers also calculated the value of all the waking hours that patients lost because they could not fully function. That toll was around $5,600 per year per patient, coming in at around $5.8 billion nationally. Canada is not an anomaly. Every nation that offers government-funded universal coverage features long wait lines. When the government makes health care free, consumer demand for medical service surges because patients have no incentive to limit their doctor visits or to choose more cost-efficient providers or even get their fat butts out to the gym and lay off the Twinkies. And to prevent expenses from ballooning, the government sets strict budget caps that only allowed hospitals to hire a limited number of staff and purchase a very meager amount of equipment. Demand inevitably outstrips supplies, and shortages result. Look at the UK's government enterprise, the National Healthcare Service. British hospitals are so overcrowded, doctors regularly treat patients in hallways. The agency recently canceled tens of thousands of surgery, including urgent cancer procedures, because of severe resource shortages. And this last year, nearly 17,000 patients waited in the backs of ambulances, many for an hour or more, before hospital staff could clear space for them in an emergency room. Most Americans would obviously look at this condition with a sense of horror. Yet, Senator Sanders and his fellow travelers continue to treat the healthcare system in Canada and the United Kingdom as paragons to which we should all aspire. Now, in addition to the waits and the shortages and the costs, as another method to try to stem the cost, some countries, such as Canada, are implementing new laws, rules, regulations for behaviors. I'm not talking about just smoking or drinking too much. I'm not talking about them tracking your, body mass index or anything of that nature. No, it's become very intrusive in all aspects of life, particularly in Canada, where you have this new court case which is about to be heard. Now, you have to bear in mind something here, ladies and gentlemen, that, again, back to the House of Representatives, where we have the desire from the House leadership to want to reintroduce the debate on single payer. And much of the debate about what the Senate would do in support of single payer. We have learned in recent weeks that the more or less the Democrats in this case are all too willing to resort to whatever they have to resort to get their programs and policies implemented. We've seen this throughout the country. We still have elections that aren't even called yet. So, what does this have to do with an escalator? We're going to take a real quick break, come back on the other side, because these are the things that we need to be talking about in this country today. Because if the Fraser Report is in fact spot on with the fact that 75% of Americans support nationalized single-payer health care. We were talking a couple of days ago about how the Republican Party was shedding membership. The message was getting drowned out. The Democrats are winning. And I'm afraid to say that in many regards they are. Yeah, I know we got Donald Trump out there filling at rallies. I got that. But you also got a known socialist, a 29-year-old wackadoodle who was waiting tables a year ago in the House of Representatives. And she ain't the only one. That's one of the reasons we decided to put this program together. That's one of the reasons we've asked you to support the program. Because if we go, it continues to go. And you're going to wake up one day, folks, in a completely socialized country where an escalator is going to get you in hot water. And I am being dead serious about that. That's why we've asked you to support the program. That's why we've asked you to call the program. That's why we've asked you to spread the word about the program. That's why we've asked you to join us on Facebook and Twitter, and the Periscope app and all the other places that's out there. Because if this message doesn't get out, we're going to end up with a single-payer healthcare system, abortions for everybody. We're going to look like San Francisco with needles and feces in the street as we continue to build mobile emergency voting centers while we give every kid in America a free college education, while we teach everybody out there that anyone that doesn't agree with you is automatically a bigot, a misogynist, or a Nazi. That's on us. Conservatives, we're beginning to lose this. I realize there's a lot of support out there, particularly in the middle part of the country. But when 75% of Americans want single-payer health care, either they've gone entirely socialist or they ain't hearing the message. And retweeting a few folks on Twitter ain't getting the job done. You ain't changing anybody's mind on Facebook. Sometimes you got to put your money where your mouth is, whatever that might look like for you. Otherwise, you're going to end up in front of the Supreme Court because of a damn escalator. What's that all about? We'll explain it on the other side. You're listening to The Michael Hart Show.
Does your home have a water problem? Drainage around your home can cause all kinds of headaches. Disease-causing mold, cracks in walls, foundation failure, even roof leaks. At Alabama Water Management, we know that problems can often be fixed from where the water is coming from, outside. Our approach is less invasive and less expensive. So, before you spend thousands on a potentially unnecessary waterproofing system, call Alabama Water Management for a free evaluation. Alabama Water Management. Don't waterproof, water prevent.
Find Alabama Water Management on Facebook or on their website at ALAH2O.com. The Land Report, the magazine for the American landowner, is a proud supporter of the Michael Hart Show. Currently, they're offering an exclusive subscription price for listeners of the Michael Hart Show. So click on the subscribe button on landreport.com and enter the code HARTSHOW at checkout and receive a 1-year discount on America's #1 land magazine. You'll get a full year of the Land Report, which normally goes for $59, for only $15. That's a 75% savings off the cover price. Again, that's promo code HARTSHOW at checkout of thelandreport.com, and make sure to check out the Land Report on Facebook if you love land. Hey, welcome back. You're listening to the Michael Hart Show right here on the Heart of America Talk Radio Network. I want to reach out and give a shout-out to one of our brand-new supporters here on the program, McCrory Animal Clinic. This is in Albertville, Alabama. So if you're in the Albertville, Alabama, or anywhere in the southeastern United States, say hello to McCrory Animal Clinic. If you're out there on Highway 75, thank them for being a supporter of the program. We'll talk a bit more about them throughout the course of the day, the week, in the coming weeks. And also, if you would like to put your message out here, literally, we must be in a dozen different places across the internet right now. And if you would like to join us on this message to help us correct what's going on in this country and spread the word, because let me tell you something I'm excited about. Let me just kind of stop there. We're going to get into this healthcare thing a little deeper and really piss you off. Here's one of the things that I'm probably most excited about and where you guys can be very beneficial and very helpful to us. In the world of talk radio, the demographics for who listens to talk radio typically is people about 40 to 70 years of age. It's about 60-40 male to female. There's no real hard data on, black or white or other races, but it does tend to kind of attract a little bit of an older audience. I don't want to spend my time, I don't want to waste my time in a terrestrial radio environment where all I'm doing is speaking directly to people that for all intent and purposes already agree with me. When you're on the internet, you're going after a younger set of folks, or you're not losing the older people, but you are picking up younger ears. because that's where the industry is trending. I don't know if you are aware of this or not, but my buddy Laura Ingraham is getting out of terrestrial radio herself. She's going to do everything in a podcast. That's what Bill O'Reilly's been doing, and quite successfully. The whole industry is trending that direction because in spite of the technological hiccups we've had once or twice here, everything's just moving that way. We're about to introduce cameras, a video stream into this program in the very near future, maybe even as early as next week. And then we have the ability to archive things. You have the ability to hear things that you might not have known and share them, not just by telling somebody at work, but by literally clicking a link and it goes and sends the show off somewhere else. And you can post it over here and post it to your Facebook page, which, by the way, we're asking you to do. But in a larger sense, we are now talking to the people in the place. You got to meet people where they are. You know, for those of us with a Christian worldview, before the Lord ascended, he went to hell. Folks, there's a reason for that. You got to go where the sinners are. Well, guess what? Being on the internet, we are now in the most expansive territory for where the I don't get it's are. 75% of Americans polled now want single-payer health care. House of Representatives about to choose their leadership. If it's Pelosi, we're discussing single-payer health care. In Canada, it is a complete cluster. Wait lines. I need to have a physical done. I called my doctor about a week ago, and I'm still having to wait a month. In Canada, it would be a year. UK, it would be a year. But in an effort to save money, not only have they pared back services and facilities and doctors, they're also beginning to regulate almost every aspect of people's lives in those countries. The Supreme Court of Canada agreed yesterday to hear the case of a woman who was arrested in a suburb of Montreal called Laval. She was ticketed and then arrested for refusing to hold the handrail of an escalator because it's dangerous. Bella Kosian was taken by force by police, who then told her she needed to respect a pictogram with the instructions, hold the handrail. Now, this was at a subway station in Laval. This is according to the Canadian press. Bella said she did not consider the image to be an obligation. The officers detained her, issued her 2 tickets, one for about $100, the other one for $320. The Montreal Transit Corporation said that at that time it had never issued a ticket over someone's refusal to hold a handrail. Then Kosian fired a $45,000 lawsuit against the Transit Corporation, the city of Laval, and the officer involved. The Quebec court rejected her suit in 2015, as did the Quebec Court of Appeals in 2017. Now the country's Supreme Court will decide the case on whether or not, as part of their attempt to regulate life in Canada, a woman can be taken into custody for not holding the handrail of a damn escalator. Bring on that single payer, y'all. Because at that point in time, the government tells you when to wipe. And apparently 3 out of 4 Americans do not grasp that. They do not understand that under that situation, everything you do becomes regulated. Years ago, I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and I actually owned a couple of different companies. I was in the magazine business, if you can believe that. Magazine subscriptions, you know, like it's a long story, but the customer service stuff. We're the ones that sold the subscriptions to doctors' offices, dentist offices, etc. And I had a manager by the name of Cynthia Wilson that worked for me. And Cynthia, sharp girl. I mean, really, for her age, extremely sharp. But one day we're sitting around talking, and I have to paraphrase the quote because it was so many years ago, and I'm trying to recollect it to the best of my ability. But it went like this. If you're not willing to accept some risk in your chosen career, because we were speaking about our salespeople, if you're not willing to accept some risk in your chosen career and in your life, then everything you do, everything you become, everything you will have will be determined by those willing to assume that risk. It's an absolutely brilliant observation, and it's spot on. And that's what we're trying to do here with single-payer health care, is offload the risk of having to pay an insurance premium. Because there's a difference between health care and health insurance. But there are too many people in this world today that are offloading the risk, that expect somebody else to pick up the pieces. You might have seen this audio from Oklahoma State coach Mike Gundy ripping into the liberal snowflakes, and he was talking about football team transfers that weren't getting their way and going off to other universities because of what he called the liberal snowflake mentality permeating even our college campuses and our sports teams. We are becoming a nation of pansies. And although I'm on the internet and I can use the other P word, I'll spare your ears. In Canada, the Canadian Supreme... Now, you think about this for a second. How much money, how much taxpayer money is it going to cost the Canadians to hear the case of a woman who was arrested for not holding on to a handrail because it was deemed dangerous in a socialist country where all of your health care and all of your behaviors are mandated for you? Ladies and gentlemen, that is what we are becoming, and right here before our very eyes. Report after report after report after report. Study after study after study indicates the United States of America is slowly but surely becoming more socialized by the day. Now, as a talk radio host, as a veteran talk radio host, very oftentimes you hear these buzzwords like liberalism, snowflake. Now it's even become synonymous with Democrat. And automatically there is this sense of suspicion. It's almost like saying socialist is the name of one team and conservatives are the name of another team. And automatically there is this division that must be exploited. And what I mean by that is this. Just toning down the rhetoric for just a moment. Just moving away from the talking heads, the bloviating, the Fox frenzy, the Mika and Scarboroughs of the world, that cute little boy, Rachel Maddow, putting all of them to the side for just a second here. Thinking clearly. Do you really want to live in a socialized country? Because you know what? When something's free, that's typically what it's worth. Doing this radio program ain't free. It's so important to me to get the message out, I'm reaching into my pocket. A lot of people in this country, in this state, pissed off that a big 100,000-watt talker went away because it cost a boatload of money. People will talk. People will bitch. People will scream about conservative Christian values. It's like going to church on Sunday morning, sticking that hand up in the air and waving and giving it the, oh, my God, I love you, Jesus. Oh, Lord, take me home. And then you're back at the house later with a straw and a bottle of bourbon bitching at your wife. We're losing this fight because we're not getting the message out to people that we're about to become a socialized country. So rather than me try to guilt the conservatives over here, let me talk to the liberals over here. Because you're going to get arrested if you don't hold a handrail. I know a lot of you are younger, and when you're younger, you're invincible. When I was informed that 101, which for those of you that are outside this region was a radio station in Alabama, was no longer going to be, I didn't think, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. OMG. No, I didn't go there. It's one of the reasons. Oh, by the way, I'm filling in for Lockett Saturday night. I have left that company on good terms, and that company is in good states with me. No, my concern was this. My concern was, oh, wow, I've got to deal with my insurance. Not the fact that I'm going to have to cover it, not just the fact that I'm going to have to pay for it, but I began to scramble because I have issues with my eyes, issues with my knees, back problems on occasion. I need to have some dental work done. You know why? Because I'm old. Now, I know you 70-year-olds out there going, boy, you ain't even close to old. But you 35, 40-year-olds out there, I's old, you know. But for those of you that are 25, 28, 29, 30, and you're feeling invincible, so paying for health care ain't that big of a deal, I can't afford to wait a year to get my eyes worked on when I can't even drive at night. Now, the work has since been done. But the point is this. In a socialized world, I'm walking around half blind. If I'm in Canada or the United Kingdom, I can't even do this program because I can't see the screen. Forget the conservative BS for a moment. Forget socialism and the Alexandria Cortezes of the world. I'm talking to you guys, the end user. Is that the world you want? You do realize you're not going to have an iPhone 8. You think the government's going to pay for that? Everybody gets a damn flip phone. Where do you think that money's coming from? The money that we print, the Federal Reserve, the Treasury, it's worthless. That's why it's got a serial number on it. It's got to be serialized and then put into the marketplace. And it's underwritten on the natural resource and the full faith and credit of the United States government. But for all intent and purposes, we're so damn upside down, it's mind-numbing. Maybe if somebody comes along and takes your fancy phone out of your hand, maybe you'll start to glom on to the reality of the world you live in. Maybe if nobody has unlimited data. Oh, the horror. Or you can't waste your day away on YouTube. Or Facebook. Or Twitter, for that matter. In a socialized world, everything you've got right now, you'll still have it. It'll just be greatly diminished and a lot slower. Let me give you just some form of reference before we take our last break of this hour. You turn on your computer, you go to YouTube, videos download in real time. You can't even tell they're videos in terms of the way they're loaded. They just come on. A 1-minute video just starts to run. A 2, 3, 4-minute video just goes. Back 10, 15 years ago, you'd log on to wherever to check out a video, and I am not kidding, youngsters. You log on to your computer at 10 o'clock at night, find a video you want to see, click play, and you'd come back and check if it had downloaded at midnight. That's a metaphor for socialized medicine in this country. Now we talk in terms of terabytes. Back when I got online, we're talking about baud rates of 9,600. There was no such thing as watching 2 videos in the same day because it took half a day for the damn things to load. And that's exactly where healthcare is going to head in this country if single payer is allowed to be around. And you need to man up, grow up, do your due diligence, and realize that it's going to affect 100% of the people in this country. A woman in front of the Supreme Court of Canada because she wouldn't hold on to a railing. Is that what you want? Because it's about to be what you get. Fan of the Michael Hart Show and are enjoying the daily commentary, interviews, and audio shorts, then please consider supporting the program financially. Creating a daily talk program takes a great deal of time and money. Although corporate sponsors are always welcome, the real support comes from people like you, the regular listeners. So if you support the Christian conservative message and values we share on this program and would like to help, please go to our website, michaelhartshow.com, and click on the orange Patreon button at the top of the page. For less than $7 a month, you can help us keep going while we spread our faith-based conservative views worldwide. So if you support our views, please consider supporting the program. Just go to www.michaelhartshow.com and click on the orange Patreon button, and thanks for your support and for listening.
Is your home's crawl space making your... Let Alabama Water Management inspect your crawl space today. A wet, moldy crawl space can cause serious foundation problems. They are breeding grounds for disgusting odors, polluted air, potentially harmful allergens, and volatile organic compounds that can actually make breathing difficult and the air in your home very unhealthy. Don't take chances with your family's health. If your home has a crawl space, call Alabama Water Management today for a no-cost, no-obligation crawl space inspection.
Find Alabama Water Management on Facebook or on their website at ALAH2O.com.
It's the Michael Hart Show.
Come again?
The Michael Hart Show.
You know I don't speak Spanish. In English, please.
A liberal dose of conservatism.
How'd you do that? I'm not even mad. That's amazing.
Hey, welcome back. Check us out online, michaelhartshow.com. Joe Lockett is going to join us here in just a bit. So y'all stick around. Joe is going to, join us here and talk about a little bit of his program, his plans, a lot going on, and an awful lot of things to discuss about tomorrow's program. I'm going to be actually filling in for those of you that are local to the Birmingham, Alabama area. Huntsville, for that matter, Southern Tennessee, even. I'll be filling in for the Joe Lockett Show on Saturday. So Joe's going to be joining us here in just a little bit. So y'all check us out on that tomorrow. A lot of other things going on in the news, a lot of other things that we're going to be covering as well. We've got this Alexandria Cortez, in a little bit of hot water. Also, Kirsten, I guess it is, hit for not objecting to Chuck Schumer's reelection. Yep, newly elected Arizona Democrat Senator Kirsten Sinema didn't object to Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's bid to continue leading the party, despite previously saying that she wouldn't support him if elected. She's also facing criticism of breaking her campaign promise just days after she claimed victory against Republican Martha McSally in a tightly contested race in Arizona. She went on to say, I'm not going to vote for him. Now, she said that to Politico in June, referring to Schumer, casting herself as a moderate Democrat. But on Wednesday, Schumer was reelected as Senate Minority Leader on a unanimous voice vote, with Sinema not objecting to his candidacy. She said in a statement that she didn't object to Schumer's leadership because there was no one else challenging him. A little backpedaling there. She went on to say, Arizonans know I will work with anyone in either party to get things done for our state. It's time for a new approach on both sides of the aisle, and I look forward to working with my colleagues to cut through the dysfunction and deliver results for Arizona. She went on to say, and this is a quote, had there been a challenger for a minority leader, I would have considered new leadership and a fresh perspective. I will continue to put Arizona over party. Pardon me, time for coffee. But her explanation apparently prompted criticism from Republicans who have accused Sinema of falsely claiming to be a moderate voice within the Democrat Party, despite her progressive past and her comments. A GOP-affiliated Senate Leadership Fund representative said, Christian Sinema sells out Arizona in a record time. Republican groups also criticized her throughout the election for her radical, and it was radical progressive past, including the promotion of events with a lawyer convicted for aiding an Islamic terror organization and its leader. In a 2003 interview, a radio interview, Sinema said, I don't care if people go to fight for the Taliban in Afghanistan. And, of course, that prompted McSally to accuse her of treason during a recent debate between those two. So, anyway, you've got her standing in a position where she is refusing to kowtow to that, despite the fact she said she would stand in defiance of Chuck Schumer. Going to take a real quick break here in just a bit. Joe Lockett is going to be joining us in the 9 o'clock hour. But let's take a call or two before we get on with the last hour of today's broadcast, last hour of the week as well. In an hour from now, we'll be a full 2 weeks into this. How exciting. Yeah, how exciting indeed. So let's go over to Clark's call. Hey, Clark, how are you?
Hey, Michael, I'm great. And yourself?
Oh, just wonderful.
So we were talking a little bit ago about socialism and becoming a socialist country.
Right.
Now, the way I understand socialism is pretty much everybody gets an equal outcome regardless of what they do, right?
Right.
Okay. So how long is it until we don't have cell phones? Because why would you want to run a company that produces cell phones when you're not going to get any more money out of it than anybody else? You know,
it's a good point. It's a very good point.
I mean, all innovation comes to a screeching halt. You know, technology is going to freeze at that point when we become socialistic. You know, China is what? Some kind of, I don't know. They're not completely communist anymore, but they're not capitalist either. The socialist countries, the communist countries, all the technology they have is pretty much technology that they've stolen, right?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay. So if we have global socialism, then we have global retardation of any kind of innovation. You know,
you
why
can't.
would somebody...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Clark, you can't seem to get that through the minds of people.
Well,
I mean,
you know, all these Hollywood elites that are pushing this, what they don't understand is the mansion is gone. The $250,000 car is gone. They're driving a Yugo like everybody else. I mean, that's equal outcome. And I can't for the life of me, you know, if you create a truly socialistic situation, there's no reason for anybody to risk capital or time or anything else. You know, you're going to put in whatever, I don't know, what's a socialist work week going to be, 20 hours?
Well, you know, look at it, take it to another extreme for a second, Clark. If I want to drive down, and I don't know what team you pull for, I don't even care. But if I want to drive down to the loveliest village on the plains and watch my Auburn Tigers lose against Liberty, which hopefully won't happen, and I'm taking TC with me, and we're going to go down there, we're going to have to eat, we're going to have to buy tickets, we're going to have gas in the car. You're looking at $100, $110, $115, $120 a ticket in the nosebleed seats. I'm looking at $40 in fuel, probably $40 in food, and $40 in whatever favorite beverage I happen to choose for that day. In other words, I've got a $300 turnaround to go down to that game for one day. And I am one of millions of people across this country faced with a similar situation. All of that ends. Who the hell's got $300 to drop on an Auburn game? Or for that matter, $9 for a movie ticket? Or for that matter, $1,000 for a phone? Or for that matter, you know, there's a KISS is coming back, you know, back to Alabama. I believe it's next April. Tickets start at $90 a piece. None of that crap is going on in many of these other countries. It's only in America. It's just like this thing that I'm watching the other day, and it'll kick off again on Sunday night about, you know, I'm watching this documentary on the Kim dynasty, and, you know, the fact that, you know, in the South, it was all capitalism and golf courses, and, you know, that's where we get the song Gangnam Style. You know, that's a song about capitalism in South Korea. But in the North, they're living off rat feces because there's no food. That, you know, the fact that we can't get that through the minds of people, 75% of Americans want single-payer health care, and where it exists, it sucks.
I don't know. You know, I'd be very interested to find out how they came up with those numbers. I do know that they're perfectly willing to use polling to shape the narrative instead of actually, you know, report what it is. And I got to wonder if some of that's going on. Well, you know, it's real simple. I think Jim pointed out yesterday that perhaps a lot of these caravan people were Venezuelans coming up here.
Right.
And I don't know if that's the case or not. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I do know that what's not being reported in any of the mainstream media is what's really happening in Venezuela. And they ought to be proud to tell us what's going on in this socialist paradise down there where people are barbecuing rats they find at the dump for something to eat.
Another good point.
Oh, you know, and I mean, it could not be any more clear. You know, this was what was held to be a shining example of the way things ought to be 10 years ago by the left, and they're completely destitute right now. Diseases that we thought we had taken care of are coming back. It looks like the Middle Ages or something. And, you know, if we had any kind of honesty in the media, everybody could see how well socialism actually works. If socialism was all that great, isn't it closer to the Honduras to walk down to Venezuela than it is to come here to this evil capitalist place rather than go to a socialist paradise? And yet, you know, they seem to be moving north.
What else is kind of funny, Clark, is the fact that in a perfect socialist world, these people within the media that are singing its praises don't understand that whatever praises they sing will also be mandated by the government. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to have these, North Korean inspired restrictions on the press, because they don't in Canada. But the government has an enormous amount of power and authority under that situation. And we're already moving towards it. Because I'm going to tell you something. We're not going to be able to stop it. It ain't happening. It's coming. And I don't think that way. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that I'm excited about being able to do this program online, because I'm able to speak to people where they are. I realize some of the older listeners, it was technologically challenging for me. Quite frankly, if it wasn't for our friend Tolly to the north, I'd have trouble pulling this program off myself, despite the fact I've got a pretty fair amount of expertise online. He's got 10 times more, as a lot of younger people do. But when I've got a 14-year-old, which is a true story, when I got a 14-year-old calling me and lambasting me because she gets her news on Snapchat, really? This is where they live. This is where they are. They have got to understand. The problem is this, and undoubtedly these numbers, 3 in 4 Americans, that's an extrapolated number, as all polls are. And they might have gone after younger Americans. But, it's not until you get to be 40, 45, 50 years of age and things start falling off of you, physically speaking, that you understand that you're about to be thrust into a system that is socialized, that is so cumbersome. My mom has just dealt with thyroid cancer. Her husband had to have hip replacement surgery. My father's on his 3rd heart attack. My mother-in-law has been in and out of the hospital with things here recently. I'm dealing with stuff related to my knees and my eyes in our entire universe. My little tiny universe right here. We have been in and out of the medical apparatus, if you will, for weeks now, and we are exhausted by it, and this is the best in the world. I don't know if all of us would even be here under a socialized program, having to wait that long.
Well, let me tell you what happens once you get single payer. The doodle is going to get superior care in a much, much, much more timely fashion than you will once we have single payer.
That's a very good point.
Well, it's a fact. You take the doodle.
Well, what about these countries where we're hearing people buying pet meds online because they can't afford the real ones?
Well, yeah. The question there is are you actually getting what you're supposed to be getting?
Yeah, well, I don't disagree with that.
Goes on there. But, if you take the doodle into your local veterinarian and she's running a fever and she's very sick, and he says, I need some blood work. You say, well, okay, go ahead and do it. And he pulls the blood, and he goes and he runs a CBC and a serum profile, and he identifies what's going on and appropriate steps you're taking to get the doodle feeling better. Now, we go to single payer, and you take your wife to the doctor, and she's not feeling well, and the doctor says, well, she's obviously very sick. I'd like to have some blood work. Let me submit a request, and in 2 or 3 weeks, I'll get back with you and find out whether or not this gets approved. That's not where we want to be, people. It's not. And that's where we're going to be. And I'm not just pulling this out of the air. This is, talk to somebody that's been to England and had to go through the system. And
well, let me tell you. Let me tell you this real quick, because I'm getting tired of the time here. I'm going to bring Joe in here in a minute as well. When I was having problems with my eyes, I literally could not see to drive at night. My vision was so weird, at least on one of my eyes. So I go to an eye doctor. He says, you really need to you got a cataract in your left eye, which I already knew. But he fits me for new glasses. He dilates me, fits me for new glasses. And then, he refers me to a specialist. Now I've got the glasses and I can drive. At least, I can see out of my right eye. So then I go to another eye doctor, to the surgeon. The surgeon comes in. The nurse dilates my eye. He takes a look at my eyes and goes, yes, you've got a bad cataract. He says, have you had cataracts in the past? I'm like, yes, sir, I have. I have one in my right eye. Have you had problems with that one? I says, as a matter of fact, after I had cataract surgery, I had a detached retina and was completely blind in my right eye. He said, well, I'm concerned about that with the left one. I'm bringing in a retina specialist. You're coming back tomorrow. So they checked my eyes and figured out where I was, even with the glasses. The next day I go back, I get dilated again. And I go back and I see the retina specialist. The retina specialist is like, no, I think you're going to be okay. Maybe we'll tack that thing down because I'm going to get a new lens once the old lens, the cataract lens, is taken out. So the retina guy says, no, I think you're ready for surgery. So a couple of days later, I go down to the surgery center. I have surgery on that eye. Okay? The surgery is successful. A couple of days later, I have to go back to the surgeon, who then dilates me again. And you know what the surgeon says? Ooh, the surgery was successful, but I want to make sure you're still okay with this retina. You're coming back in 3 days now. 3 days later, I come back. They dilate me again. The retina guy goes, damn, that's a good-looking surgery right there. They check my eyes, and my eye vision now with my glasses is 20/20. Now, I've been dilated 6 times in the course of the last 21 days. I've seen the original eye doctor, the optometrist, the retina specialist, and the surgeon, as well as a whole bevy, a host, a smorgasbord, a cornucopia of nurses. In a socialized environment, that doesn't happen. Now, we're talking
about 4 or 5 years.
Well, okay, but that's even if I'm able to see a specialist. But in my case, this goes down over 21 days. 21 days ago, I can't see. Now I've got brand new vision. I've been cleared. I don't have to go back for a couple of years. The point is I don't know that I'd ever see the specialist. I'm certainly not going to see anybody in real time, and I'm not going to get the follow-ups because it's 2-year waiting, you know, in a lot of cases, 2 years to see the primary physician, let alone a follow-up. And people don't understand that.
Well, what you have in your situation that you just described is every decision maker was a qualified expert in what they did.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You make it a socialistic system, and you no longer have a qualified expert making decisions. You have a bean counter directing qualified experts what they will or won't do. And then you're going to have fewer and fewer qualified experts because people that are capable of doing stuff like you're talking about are capable of doing something else.
You're exactly right.
And if they're going to be dictated to all the time, they will find something else to do.
You are spot on, my friend. Clark, very good call. Very good, and you're absolutely right, and I appreciate it so very much.
Take care, Michael.
You too, Clark. And also thanks for your support. Clark's been a great supporter of the program, and we appreciate him so very, very much. We come back to the side. Our buddy Joe Lockett's going to join us. We're going to break down some additional news of the day, talk to you a little bit about his program. Also, I am going to be on the Joe Lockett Show tomorrow. So for those of you that are in North Central Alabama, Southern Tennessee, Eastern Mississippi, Western Georgia, I'll be on WDJC. I'm returning to the scene of the crime. What's that all about? Well, we'll perhaps break that down when we get Joe Lockett on the other side. You're listening to the Michael Hart Show right here on the Heart of America Talk Radio Network. Y'all stay around. The Land Report, the magazine for the American landowner, is a proud supporter of the Michael Hart Show. Currently, they're offering an exclusive subscription price for listeners of the Michael Hart Show. So click on the subscribe button on landreport.com and enter the code HARTSHOW at checkout and receive a 1-year discount on America's #1 land magazine. You'll get a full year of the Land Report, which normally goes for $59, for only $15. That's a 75% savings off the cover price. Again, that's promo code HARTSHOW at checkout of thelandreport.com, and make sure to check out the Land Report on Facebook if you love land.
Do you think the Democrats
targeted people with mental health issues? They go after people with mental illness, people with depression, people with anxiety. It's despicable.
The consequences of this targeting are horrific. People with mental health or substance abuse issues account for
62% of all Democrats
in the United States.
It's sick. It's twisted.
Know the truth. Spread the truth.
Democrats suck.
It's not right versus left. It's us versus them. It's the Michael Hart Show.
Hey, welcome back. About 16 minutes past the hour. You're listening to the Michael Hart Show right here on the Heart of America Talk Radio Network. Check us out online, michaelhartshow.com. You can now listen to us on Twitter. You can listen to us on Periscope, Facebook. We are coming to you live from the Blog Talk Radio platform. We are actually broadcasting live on the website. We're on iTunes, Google. Oh, hell, I don't even know where all we are right now. There's so many ways to interact with the program, and we would love to have you join us here as we continue to spread the word that, as Christians, and hang tight, Joe, I'm about to get right to you. As Christians, we're always talking about things like, our movie, okay? Our movie. When we pass on to the Lord and we join the Lord, we're going to be faced with our movie, the things that we did in our lives, right? So what's your movie going to contain? Do you really want to be on that team that allowed socialized medicine and the spread of abortion practices and the easing up of, the opioid epidemic and crime in our streets and dressing up young girls as sexy cocktail waitresses for Halloween? No genders any longer, free sex everywhere, nobody worries about anything. It's just, love, drugs, sex, rock and roll. Well, we don't want to get rid of rock and roll, but the point is this. Conservatives, we're losing the war. We're losing the messaging. Now, there's still a lot of us out there, but when I started doing this program, the numbers were 62%. Right at 62% conservatives in this country. Low 30s were the liberals, and the difference was the independents. Now the independents are higher than both the other parties, but the Democrats are higher than the Republicans. And that's happened on our watch. And all the retweets in the world are not going to get it done. That's why we're constantly seeking not just support of this program, and you know how to do it. I'm not going to sit here and beg folks to help us spread the message. But if we don't spread the message, we will lose this war. And somebody else that needs your support, he's certainly given me his, is our good buddy, the Lockett in Media, the Joe Lockett Show, and Outspoken is our good buddy, Joe Lockett. How are you, my brother?
Doing good this morning, Michael. How you doing?
Oh, just wonderful. I got back to the house last night, and man, I tell you what, I hit the sofa and I crashed. Of course, I've been on the TV program with you, and we had a great time, but we tore it up.
Last night I had so much fun being on TV with you last night, Michael. I can't, because we just went at the news, and it was like radio on TV, and it was fun.
Well, we always have such a good time. So tell me what is going on. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to be filling in for you here locally on 101.1, which is just weird. But, it's what we do. But tell the people, a lot of folks would tune in from different parts of the country. A lot of people are tuning in from other countries altogether. Tell them how they can find the program, but give us a little bit of an overview of the show. The show's called Outspoken, and I want you to introduce the program to those that might never have heard of it.
Well, it's a TV show that I started a few months ago. I decided that, I wanted to do my own independent TV show. And what you see a lot of debate shows on TV with news, but we never get a chance to hear news where you can actually call into and debate the news. So, we created the show Outspoken with Joe Lockett. It's on Monday through Friday. And the great thing about it is, Michael, even if you don't live in Alabama and you can't catch it on ACN Channel 80 on Charter Cable, you can watch live streaming all over the world just like you do with the internet radio. You just go to JLENHD.com. If that's too hard for you to remember, just go to JoeLockettShow.com and click on TV, and you can watch it right there. And your man Michael Hart, he's on every Thursday with me, and we're chopping up everything from politics to sports to social issues. And if you want two people's opinion, there's a black man and a white man that's going to tell it to you straight and going to be outspoken about it. They better check it out definitely on Thursday nights, 6 to 7 Central Standard Time.
What's interesting, Joe, and you and I have talked about this so many times, is that, the news media has crafted this narrative that what's important to you as a black guy and what's important to me, although there are social things that are concerns of yours, obviously, that's going to be the case of anybody. But the reality of it is that the things that we worry about at night, the things that keep us awake at night, the things we want for our families, they are almost identical. And, we've got to get away from this narrative of it always being man against woman, right against left, Democrat against Republican, and certainly black against white. And if we don't drive that message home, we are going to continue to get that wedge driven between us. And one of the things that you and I talked about last night was who really runs America. And it was very topical. We didn't have a lot of time to break it down. But people need to realize that there are forces in the world that really are running this country, and they use the media to distract us. It's almost like this organization, and there's multiples. It's almost like they're a magician, where they distract you with this, so they're over here doing that. And one of their favorite distractions is race. I'm not saying that the bigotry doesn't exist. That's insane. But then you have the whole gender debate, the social media debate. Right. You've got homosexuality in our churches and our marriages. And if people don't see, and that's why, you and I have talked about it for years, that it's not a matter of left versus right, but us versus them. Because you and I, you and I agree on a lot of things, a couple of things we don't agree on. But at the end of the day, the things we all want are almost identical. But yet most people simply can't grasp that. That's one of the things we talked about on this program, and one of the things you talked about on yours.
And I so much agree with you, Mike. And here's the other thing people don't realize. When you look at the sponsors, right, people got to think about this. And you and I know we're not going to call any news organizations, but we know some news organizations that there are certain parties that fund these news organizations, and they will not say a bad word against certain candidates because of the funding. And if people don't believe me, just look at Fox News and see what happened when Laura Ingraham said what she said and the sponsors start to back away. And what happens? People get fired. So money do control what kind of news you're going to get. And that's in mainstream and anything else you do. Money controls it from the top to the bottom. End of the day, if people are not watching, they're not making any money, and you're not going to get your news. You stop watching, the sponsor stops showing up, the news goes off TV.
No, you're exactly right, and that's one of the reasons that we have been seeking listener support of this program. Now, we do have some corporate sponsors. Matter of fact, we got another great one just yesterday, McCrory Animal Clinic. That's up in Albertville, Alabama. Have been listening to us for some time now, and they're now a part of the program. Of course, our friends over at the Land Report, which is a great magazine. Alabama Water Management is another one, and we're talking to 3 or 4 in addition to that. But I always kind of thought of this as the best way to handle this would to be a listener-supported platform so that we can say what we feel like we need to say. And if somebody supports the program, whether it's through the Patreon app or just however they do it, and they don't like it, or I say something that offends them, guess what they can do? Withdraw their support.
They can stop.
They
but
can
here's
stop.
The thing, though, Mike. That's why they call us. That's why they call us independent media. See, we're not mainstream. We're independent, which means we can say what the hell we want to say at the end of the day. The mainstream, they cannot. They have to do what their bosses say, and their bosses have to do what their paycheck says.
Well, I don't think enough people realize that, Joe. And I realize the independent, or, I used to call it orphan media years ago, but, orphan media was really more of a print term than anything else. But as the independent media grows, a lot of folks don't realize exactly what you're talking about.
the fact that there's a lot of organizations out there that tiptoe around the facts that don't just hit people between the eyes for fear they might offend somebody. And it permeates not just MSNBC or CNN, but Fox News as well. When Daddy Murdoch, decided to retire, and all of a sudden we got the Suns running things, I don't think enough people out there realize, you're only getting part of the story. And that's why if people want to get the truth, spread the truth, particularly on a platform that's worldwide, they better pony up and support it, whether it's this program, your program, or any program for that matter. Otherwise, because you want to know one of the very first victims of socialist communism it's the press.
Yes. And Michael, when people say elections are about, media is about, citizens don't realize what actually goes on behind the scenes. You and I do. And that's why we're so in a great place right now because of internet radio, because, we're able to buy our own time and tell the people the truth. But what people have to understand is for any organization, any company, any business to survive, it takes money. So if they want the truth, they want unbiased media, they have to support these programs. And that's why I say, thank you to all the sponsors that support Michael Hart, that support Lock It In Media, and you guys need to spread the word. We reach just as many people as other people reach, and pretty much we reach people better because people really want to hear the truth. People are tired of hearing, people going after Donald Trump. People are tired of hearing, Fox News spin one story about Donald Trump. People want to hear the true story and move on with the facts and find out what's going on in the world. And that's what the Michael Hart Show, that's what the Joe Lockett Show, that's what Outspoken, that's what we bring to the table. And I appreciate everybody that can continue to support my friend, and hope you guys continue to support me also.
Well, you're absolutely right, because if we don't, we're going to lose the narrative, because we're being drowned out, Joe. We're being drowned out by a very liberal press. And, the numbers, it's not to a tipping point. We haven't gone off a cliff, but we are at a point right now where the conservative movement is outnumbered by the liberal movement. Now, could that change? Frankly, it does ebb and flow, historically speaking. But the voices on the left are getting louder and louder and louder. And even Hitler knew, you want to convince people. You tell a really big lie, and if you tell a really big lie long enough, eventually people buy it. And and we're at that tipping point in this country. And people feel like, well, all I got to do is, get into an argument on Facebook, or I'll tweet something out, and that's going to make everything all right. And I guess in a roundabout way, what you were saying is that for those of us that are in the industry, we see things, and I've been preaching this for years, we see things and are privy to things that we have not been able to share in the past, and that might shock the ever-living hell out of a lot of folks. Internet radio gives us the ability to get a little deeper into some of this stuff and say things that we don't have to worry about saying, whether it's the fear of a sponsor or the FCC or the person that writes our check. We got Joe Lockett hanging out with us today. And we're going to also before we get to our next break, let's go ahead and bring Jim into this conversation. He seems to have something he wants to share with us as well. So, Joe, I'm not going to put you on hold. I'm just going to bring Jim in with us as well. What's up, Jim?
Hell yeah, damn right, Joe. Isn't this like sitting in the Chiefs' quarters and talking with friends?
Hey, Jim.
Mike, while I was on hold, and I heard Joe, I don't think I've ever heard Joe say damn or hell before, and on the show, I'm like, this really is like a bunch of fellas sitting around talking. Anyway, I had a thought yesterday after our phone call, and I just wanted to bounce it off of you. I apologize that it's a little bit too far into the hodgepodge category, but it's just something to think about, okay? You recall from your history in high school, as well as you, Joe, that Islam was formed in the 500s and 600s, okay, give or take 30, 35 years of what was going on in the pedophile Muhammad's brain. Okay, now, what they were reforming against was Judaism and the Catholic Church that was in power in the Eastern Empire at that time, okay? So what they did is they wanted to remove what we would look at as the sacraments and the ritualism and blah, 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 and just focus only on prayer. If you look at modern Islam, their entire religion is based on praying 5 times a day, reciting prayers, and that's it, and removing all the rest. Now, looking at modern Protestant denominations, they emulate themselves as being the anti of the Catholics, or the Protestant Revolution, as we conservative Catholics refer to it as. Who do they emulate? Do they emulate more the Catholic Church or Islam? Go into a Baptist church, a Methodist church, a Lutheran church, and what do? They remove the sacramentality of their Mass, of their service, and stick only to the prayer. People, you've been duped by the devil. Come into the Catholic Church. We will welcome you with open arms. Be happy! Be Catholic! Thank you!
Yep, thank you, Jim.
All right, Mike.
Well, you know, without being theological about it, there is there's a kernel of truth, not from a theological perspective necessarily, but the fact that, you know, you do have certain organizations, whether or not they be, you know, denominations or even countries, that, and it goes back to the thing, maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do a little bit of this next week, Joe. But you know, there was a segment that I did, because I'm about to get deeper into the news in future editions of the program. I don't want to be, you know, sit around being a talking head. There's too many people out there. You can teach a chimpanzee to write, you know, to read a sheet. But I do want to get a little deeper into stuff that's going on in this country, like something which was written and published by Dial Press in the 1950s. It was called the Report from Iron Mountain. And it was basically, it's thought to be a parody. It's thought to be satire, although it was actually published. And the whole book is about how governments keep people in check during extended periods of peacetime. And it's very interesting that, in fact, that seems to be occurring. And when I come back on the other side, I had no intentions of doing this today, but I do want to play something that might really kind of speak to this. And this goes all the way back to, I want to say, the year 1964. And it's from Paul Harvey. And I think it's important for people to realize what's going on in this country today, and how, yeah, you're right, a lot of the mainstream media is not telling you what you need to know, what you need to hear, but there's a lot of people out there that can, but are afraid to. And that's why we're able to do these things right here on live Internet Talk Radio. So y'all stick around. We're going to come back on the other side. Joe, can you hang out with us for just a little bit longer?
Of course, Michael.
Okay, great. We're going to come back to the side. We're going to play something for you from Paul Harvey from about 50, 60 years ago that I think might very well bring a lot of this all the way, well, you know, full circle, if you will. You're listening to The Michael Hart Show right here in the heart of American Talk Radio. Nick, stick around.
Is your home's crawl space making your... Let Alabama Water Management inspect your crawl space today. A wet, moldy crawl space can cause serious foundation problems. They are breeding grounds for disgusting odors, polluted air, potentially harmful allergens, and volatile organic compounds that can actually make breathing difficult and the air in your home very unhealthy. Don't take chances with your family's health. If your home has a crawl space, call Alabama Water Management today for a no-cost, no-obligation crawl space inspection.
Find Alabama Water Management on Facebook or on their website at alaH2O.com. The Land Report, the magazine for the American landowner, is a proud supporter of the Michael Hart Show. Currently, they're offering an exclusive subscription price for listeners of the Michael Hart Show. So click on the subscribe button on landreport.com and enter the code HARTSHOW at checkout and receive a 1-year discount on America's #1 land magazine. You'll get a full year of the Land Report, which normally goes for $59, for only $15. That's a 75% savings off the cover price. Again, that's promo code HARTSHOW at checkout of thelandreport.com, and make sure to check out The Land Report on Facebook if you love land. Hey, welcome back. You're listening to the Michael Hart Show right here on the Heart of America Talk Radio Network. Now, we were talking a little while ago. Joe Locke is still hanging out with us. We're also talking with Jim, one of our regular listeners. And, you know, we're always talking about culture and society and the things you won't be told about. You know, we talked a bit about earlier today about the Federal Reserve Bank, who really runs America, talking about health care in Canada, and now all the idiotic things that are being discussed in the House of Representatives. And, you know, I think it's very important for people to understand that in a lot of cases, and Jim made the comment, and he was referring, you know, to denominations, but he made the comment that you're being played. And it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And the thing is, the media is culpable, government's culpable. We have capitulated to culture. We have acquiesced our responsibilities. And so in so many regards, people are not up to speed with the fact that what has gone on in this country. First off, in the book, The 5,000-Year Leap by Cleon Skousen, he predicted this would happen, that as America lost her moral compass, these things would happen, and the Founding Fathers knew it, which is why they wrote the Constitution the way that they did. But other people in the media have known it for years as well. But nobody listens to it. And to give you an example of what I'm talking about here, this was done in 1964. 1964. That's like over 2 decades and stuff like that ago. Check this out from Paul Harvey, and tell me if this doesn't just run chills down your spine.
If I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness. And I'd have 1/3 of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing. Paul Harvey. Good day.
54 years ago. Now, you tell me, did he not absolutely nail it? 54 years ago. The media, emotions, the lack of wanting to work. He called out everything we have called out on this program today. Our father who art in Washington, pornography, drug abuse, rampant sexuality. I'm not anti-lottery, but isn't it interesting to note? He even points out whole entire states promoting gambling. And how many states in America do that today? 45, 46, 47? 54 years ago. It's like in the movie Independence Day. Judd Hirsch. You knew back then, Area 51 or 54, whatever the hell it is. You knew back then and you did nothing. And here we are today. 54 years later, we were warned. We were warned by arguably the most popular radio host in America, possibly even American history, that this was going to happen. And here we are today dealing with it. I might just play that every single day for the next week. Everything that he said. Everything that he said, Joe. Absolutely unbelievable. Also, last night on the Outspoken program with Joe Lockett. Joe, can you hear me okay?
Of course, Michael. I'm here.
All right. Let me stand up and pat myself on the back. What did I say would happen with Jim Acosta?
You said, Michael, okay, you were right. He's going to get his pass back. You said it last night. You actually was the first one to predict that on my show.
A Trump-appointed judge has just ruled in favor of CNN's Jim Acosta, allowing the network to report to temporarily regain access to his White House press confidential. I told you it was a Don Imus kind of a situation. He'd be slapped, but he'd get his press credentials back. And guess what? Less than 12 hours later, voila.
The judge was listening to you, Mike, and he liked you better than he liked me.
Uh-huh. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and make another prediction. About 24, 26, 27 hours before it occurs. Tomorrow, Alabama will win. All right, look at that. I am on a roll.
Okay, Nostradamus.
Oh, don't even go there with me. Yeah, Nostradamus. One of these days I want to do a Nostradamus segment because he was a complete whack job himself. Talk about somebody that was stoned half the time. But, that's neither here nor there. You got people running around screaming Nostradamus predicted this, that, and the other because people in this country really are just that stupid. But it is so funny to me. All right, so we're going to take a real quick break, Joe. I'm going to ask you to hold on to the bottom of the hour. Can you go the distance with me?
I'm with you, Michael.
All right. Stick around, guys. We're going to go ahead and wrap this puppy up here real quick. Come back on the other side. You're listening to the Michael Hart Show right here on the Heart of America, the tickled version of the Heart of America Talk Radio Network. fan of The Michael Hart Show and are enjoying the daily commentary, interviews, and audio shorts, then please consider supporting the program financially. Creating a daily talk program takes a great deal of time and money. Although corporate sponsors are always welcome, the real support comes from people like you, the regular listeners. So if you support the Christian conservative message and values we share on this program and would like to help, please go to our website, michaelhartshow.com, and click on the orange Patreon button at the top of the page. For less than $7 a month, you can help us keep going while we spread our faith-based conservative views worldwide. So if you support our views, please consider supporting the program. Just go to www.michaelhartshow.com and click on the orange Patreon button, and thanks for your support and for listening.
None shall pass.
What?
None shall pass.
I command you, as King of the Britons, to stand aside.
I move for
The Michael Hart Show.
You make me stand.
Hey, welcome back. Listen to the Michael Hart Show right here on the Hart American Talk Radio Network. Want to give a shout out to the folks at McCrory Animal Clinic. They are our newest sponsor here on the program. They're located in Albertville, Alabama, and I want to give a shout out to the folks over at the Land Report, Alabama Wire. You know, the sponsorship is growing for the program. Only been on the air a couple of weeks now and already catching some good traction and attention around the country as we get into the deep waters, sometimes muddy waters of political talk in this country. A lot of folks out there, they just don't have the cojones that want to discuss it, and they avoid it at all costs. It's one of the reasons why Joe Lockett has been so successful in talking about what he talks about, and you can listen to his program, his radio program, as well as the TV program online. But, you know, if you want to be lied to or just get a little bit of entertainment or, you know, a lot of media out there is real good at getting your emotions all jacked up. Isn't it interesting that Paul Harvey also spoke to jacking up your emotions for the purposes of creating the illusion that something is either so bad or so good? Yeah, I mean, we're being played, folks. I mean, believe that or not. I don't really care if you believe it or not. Be a dumbass. That's on you. Because at the end of the day, if people don't realize that, in fact, there are nefarious forces at work here, then there's not a thing that I can do to convince you otherwise. And that's one of the things that Joe just does in a stellar manner, and I'm so delighted to be able to share the airwaves with him. So check him out. Joe, do me a favor before we part ways here in just a few moments. Tell the listeners how they can find out more about your program online.
The quickest way is just to look up JoeLockettShow.com. You can follow us out there on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all over the place at JoeLockettShow.com. And Michael, like you always say, man, the biggest thing is right now that people need to understand, independent media is going to get you the true message. We're not bought. They pay for us to give us the information, to give them the information from what we truly see and understand because we know behind the scenes. If you want to continue to watch Fox, NBC, CNN, that is what they call mainstream. Mainstream costs money. But when you go to independent media, that is actually when you get your true news. So I encourage people to go out there and make sure they support everything that we do, what your Michael Hart Show is doing across the nation, what Joe Lockett Show is doing across the nation, what Lockett and Media doing across the nation. Support these platforms because if you continue to want the true word and the true news, you have to support these people who's going to tell you the truth and not just give you what they think that you want to hear because it's sensationalism.
I don't know if you heard this or not, Joe, but Laura Ingraham is moving over to exclusively. Now, she's not coming off Fox, but as far as her radio program is concerned, she's taking it to the internet as well. Because
here's the thing, Michael. Exactly. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying, because, Michael, what people don't understand is once the mainstream don't need you no more, Michael, let's just be honest, okay? What are they going to do, Michael? They're going to throw you to the wolves. right? And you left to fend for yourself. People on mainstream are talking heads for the networks because for the people that pay them. Independent media are talking heads for the truth. Independent media is going to tell you how the story really is behind the scenes and the truth about a story and let you make your own decision. And, Michael, I have to say that you've been my mentor, my friend for many, many, many years. You told me this like 6-7 years ago, and it has come to fruition for you and for me at the end of the day. And you have called it, and you said this many times, like, if you go to Washington, D.C., you know where I'm going to go with this, right? And you shake up, you put Democrats in the bag and you put Republicans in the bag. What did you always say to me, Michael? When you shake that bag out, what comes out?
Basically, the exact same person. I mean, there's not
exactly
not a bit of daylight. You know, it's interesting that I'm doing a radio program. I believe it's Monday night. By the way, also on Monday morning at the Igniting the Nation Broadcast Network, I'm also going to be on the air with Rabbi Eric Walker. So you need to go check out his program. I'm going to be a regular weekly guest with Rabbi Walker, or not weekly, I'm sorry, monthly guest, around the 19th of November. So we might have an abbreviated edition of this program on Monday so I can get down the road to get on the air with him. And I'll put more information up on the social media. But Monday night, I am doing an interview out of Florida for the book Unknown America. We're going to be talking a bit about some of the things in the book, and you can find it if you want it over at theunknownamerica.com. It's like $15, $16, $17. Or if you support the program at the Patreon link on the website, you'll get a free copy of it just for your $6 donation to the program. I know it's going to kill you, but, you know, that's what keeps us on the air and keeps things going like Joe's talking about. But I was doing the interview Monday night, Joe, and I'm talking to the host of the program yesterday. This guy actually worked in the Nixon administration, and he was telling me all these interesting stories about politics in Washington, D.C., and how he was saying, and he and I have never met, he was saying on the phone yesterday exactly the same thing you and I were just saying, that there's not a damn bit of difference between a Democrat and a Republican behind the scenes. They're all hanging out together. They're drinking together. They're partying together. Hell, they're probably double dating together. You know, they're doing all kinds of crazy crap. And so, you know, it's exactly right. And that's why, as you point out, the independent media is so unbelievably, remarkably important. And I just, for the life of me, don't, you know, see why folks cannot grasp the reality that, you know, if you want the truth, you're going to have to support the truth. And I mean...
And they need to... Go ahead, Michael.
No, you go ahead. I'm going to let you finish this thing up.
Oh, no, what I was saying is basically, you know, they need people like the Michael Harts that's been in this business for a long time, right? Like I said, I can sit there all day. Michael Hart taught me this game. You know, I've been in this game for a minute, but Michael Hart actually gave me the platform, you know, worked with me and taught me a lot about this business. And because of what we've seen, if you guys have watched Michael Hart over the last 10, 20 years or what he's been doing, you watch what I've done over the last 6 years, we have built a platform. When things change in mainstream, Michael Hart, Joe Lockett is still here. Let me say that again, America. When things change on mainstream, Michael Hart and Joe Lockett is still here. Why? Because we understood the power of independent media. Michael Hart already had his internet thing going. He already had social media going. He has his book. And by the way, if y'all listening to this show, go out and get The Heart of America. Everything you purchase from this platform promotes what Michael Hart is doing and supports this program and helps him get onto other platforms. Internet radio is going to be in cars pretty soon. We need you guys to make sure at each and every point, if you want to continue to get this stuff, you have to support what we're doing, and we appreciate you for what you're doing.
Well, at the risk of sounding like I'm, you know, overtly pandering, we're always talking about how if you're not going to get out and vote, don't bitch about what's going on in the country. Well, if you want to continue to support, you know, the messages and, you know, whether or not you're making a pledge to you or me or going out and supporting your program in terms of advertising, if you're not willing to put your wallet where you say your beliefs are, then shut the hell up about it. I mean, I hate to be that way about
Michael,
it.
Listen, hold on, Michael. Let me be real. But you know how we do it. Let's go ahead and be real with everybody. Everybody bitched and complained about when WYD went out the air, right? They was upset. Mr. Crawford was not making money, period, okay? When that show went off air, it wasn't making money. So if people want something, if you want something, you have to support or send sponsors to these stations or to what we're doing, because at the end of the day, everybody has to be paid. And if you want information, you have to go ahead and have sponsors. So we give you the news. We're going to work really hard, give you great products. We're going to break it down. Michael works his behind off. I work my behind off to study this news to give you guys straight facts. But at some point, people don't realize, Michael, when we say independent, what does that mean? You and I are paying for this out of our own pockets for the love of what we do. You and I have been funding this for a long time, Michael. People don't realize that. Everything you've done with your book, radio shows, TV shows, and all we've been doing over the years, Michael, we have done it for the love of what we want to make sure that the people get the correct story. That has come out of our own pockets. But we have families, too. So at the end of the day, what Donald Trump is doing, what Nancy Pelosi is doing, what Nikki Haley is doing, all these people in the mainstream media, if you guys want the want the backstory, you guys support what we're doing. And Michael Hart, when I tell you, when he's one of the best in the game, man, across America, who would go up against Rush Limbaugh or the Glenn Becks of the world. Yeah, I said it. Michael Hart is that damn good. And y'all make sure y'all support my man, because that's what he does. He brings you the straight scoop of what's happening, and he does have connections in high places. And, Michael, I appreciate everything you're doing, man.
Damn, Joe, you're hired. I appreciate that so very much. But, you're every bit as qualified, every bit as good. Would love you like a brother. And I know that you're about to travel out of town. I'm going to be on the Joe Lockett Show tomorrow, taking care of it locally. So you go out and have some fun. I'll take care of the program. I can't believe I'm going back to 101. But, hey, life is weird that way. But, Joe, thanks for the kind words. It means the world to me.
Michael, here's the thing. What people don't realize behind the scenes, right? When your show, when you wanted somebody to fill in, who did you call, Michael?
You.
You always call me. You could have called anybody in the world, but you always call me, right? So when things change and, God works in mysterious ways, it was time. So here's the thing. My house, you've always told me this, Michael, day one. Joe, my house is your house. So, Michael, I always told you this. My house is your house. So when it comes time, Michael, whenever we need to go do something, man, we're going to do this together. Michael Hart and Joe Lockett, Ebony and Apper, we are not going anywhere, y'all. We are here for you. We're going to give you the news. We're going to give you associations, and we're going to stand our damn ground. Michael Hart is going to tell you what he needs to hear on his platform. Make sure you lock it in every single day to listen to this guy. After you listen to all that stuff on mainstream, come to Michael Hart. He's going to give it to you 5 days a week. And then catch him on show with me on TV, on Outspoken on Thursdays, because we're going to be outspoken. If y'all truly want to hear what a white man and a black man got to say about issues in politics, check us out. We're going to do that too.
Absolutely. Joe, thank you so much for popping by. Have a wonderful vacation, and we will talk to you next week. I'm about to wrap this thing up and get out of here. Thank you so much for those wonderful words.
All right. Thank you, Mike. I love you. Have a great weekend, man. Appreciate you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. That's Joe Lockett, everybody. Check him out, joelockett.com. Also want to remind you on a Monday morning, I'm going to be on the Igniting a Nation Broadcasting Network. You can find out more by going to IANBN, Igniting a Nation broadcastingnetwork.com. Watch me on with Rabbi Eric Walker. We're going to be covering the news of the day from a biblical perspective, and we are so happy to be able to do that. Also, for those of you that are local in the Birmingham, North Central Alabama area, I will be covering the Joe Lockett Show tomorrow. You can go check us out if you do want to support the program, however that might look. Check out the site at michaelhartshow.com and hit the Patreon button, the free copy of Unknown America. If you just want a copy of the book or two, you can go to theunknownamerica.com. It makes a great Christmas gift. And we appreciate all the support because we want to keep the lights on here at the Heart of America Talk Radio Network. That's it for us. Thank you to Tolly Williams for everything that he does. We'll be back with you Monday at 8. You can listen to The Michael Hart Show right here on the Heart of America Talk Radio Network.